On this edition of Gameball NFL Endzone, we're going to break down the NFC conference in the NFL draft and see how those teams fared, and we'll give you our official grades of how they picked those draft picks. It's going down right here, Gameball NFL Endzone, and of course, it starts right now. We back. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Gameball NFL Endzone, where the football season never ends. I'm Marcus Young Genius Jenkins.
I'm Michael Riley.
I'm Luke Hartnett.
And of course, like we mentioned earlier, we're going to break down the NFC conference and how they fared in the NFL draft, and we're going to give you the grades to each team in that conference to let you know how we think they did. And of course, I think it's only right we start in the NFC East division, and we got to start with my man Mike's favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. But we're going to start with the grade that Mike gave the Dallas Cowboys, and this is interesting, so I'm going to start with you first. You gave it
favorite team to hate.
Before I go into it, I like to let this man explain his grade first.
All right, well,
so
Luke,
let him do the honors.
Don't mind if I do. Don't mind if I do.
All right, so Luke,
I got the Cowboys going with a solid B here. I like the they got the things kicked off with the first round pick of Leighton Vander Esch out of Boise State. Going to be Sean Lee 2.0. Connor Williams, he's going to step in for Doug Free. You know, Doug Free kind of a retired mid off season on him last year, and you kind of tell they were missing. They didn't have quite the same offensive line as 2016. I put a lot on that on Doug Free's abrupt retirement. You know, Michael Gallup, he's not Des Bryant, but he does provide depth at the position there. I would have liked to see them go receiver a little higher up in the draft there. If I'm not mistaken, they kept there. They did not trade down in the first round there. I would like to see them go to either. I think Cortland Sutton was still available at the time out of SMU. He's right there in their backyard as well. Then they got our local guy, Dorrance Armstrong Jr. out of Kansas. 2016, he led the Big 12 in tackles for loss. Wasn't able to replicate that in 2017. He's getting double and triple team for the most part, though, so he still made a very, very similar impact despite the lack of stats there. Solid pickup out of Stanford in the fourth round with Dalton Schultz. Mike White, quarterback out of Western Kentucky. Maybe he could have the sleeper potential. You remember Tony Romo was undrafted out of Eastern Kentucky. There's some similarities there. Chris Covington, not sure how he fell in the sixth round. He's a third rounder. I mean, he's got third round talent. And then Cedric Wilson, wide receiver to Boise State. Again, add a little more depth. Another thing I would like to see the Cowboys do. Rumor has it they could have gotten Earl Thomas from Seattle to trade that second round pick. So they're going to be hoping that Connor Williams has a long and prosperous career for them on the offensive line, because they could potentially had Earl Thomas by trading that pick. So I give him a solid B though, because I think there's a lot of on the surface there's question marks, but it could be one of these 3 to 5 to 7 years from now. I think a lot of these guys are going to pan out really well for him. So I'm kind of half glass full, if you will.
Now, Mike, I'm gonna swing this your way. Now, you gave them an interesting grade. One that you really don't hear about, if at all, and that was an F minus. Would you care to break down that assessment, please?
Well, like good old T.O. said, you better get your popcorn ready. And here's why I give them an F minus. I don't discredit the inside linebacker that they drafted. He's a good player and all that. The most position that you needed was wide receiver and tight end, and they did not address that in the first 2 rounds of the draft. And here's why. You had an unexpected retiree from Jason Witten like hours before the draft happened. All of a sudden, Jason Witten retires. And another reason why I give him an F minus. History repeats itself where the Dallas Cowboys do not address a skilled possession player on the offensive side. For example, you take it the 1985 draft, where they waited Jerry Rice to come down to their lap at the 17th pick overall. And what does the San Francisco 49ers do? They beat the Cowboys to the punch and got the greatest receiver of all time. And Jerry Rice and the Dallas Cowboys do not act, and they were snake bitten right there. That haunted him. Then they passed up on Randy Moss in the 1998 draft, and he had a successful Hall of Fame career. He won the Rookie of the Year award when he entered the draft. He had over 1,500 or 1,800 yards reception with a lot of touchdowns to be the #1 scoring offense in the league that made it to the NFC Championship game to play against the Atlanta Falcons. The Dallas Cowboys were snake bitten by that. Then they almost passed up on Des Bryant, who they recently released before the draft, and they could. And once again, they're snake bitten by it. They had Cam Ridley on their hands, and they didn't draft him. DJ Moore, one of the best receivers, if not the best receivers in the draft, compared to Cam Ridley, did not take him. You could have took a tight end in Hayden Hurst, and you didn't address that. And also, you didn't address a tight end either in the second round, which led to the Eagles trading up before you and taking the tight end that you could have had in front of your face in your own dome. So that sends a message where Jerry Jones is too naive sometimes, not sometimes, but all the time thinks he got some home run hit, and really bites him every time he tries to draft some players. If the Dallas Cowboys want to be successful, Jerry Jones is going to have to let control of the operation presidency go and sit back and be an owner. That's what great owners do instead. He's too ignorant of his mind and keeps costing them wins and keeps costing them playoffs, and every single time they're in this position of an NFL draft, either the top 10 or the top 15. But history repeats itself every year, despite of having playoff wins here and there. But you only had 2 playoff wins in 23 seasons. You have not made the Super Bowl since 1995. That was 23 years ago. And most of these draft picks weren't even born. That was the place kicker David Akers said. So it keeps on happening to the Dallas Cowboys. They keep repeating itself. Then they want to find a wide receiver in the 3rd round. And they could have got a deal to get Earl Thomas, like Luke was alluding to. Or they could have traded back in the 1st round and got an offensive guy to go with a defensive guy. That would have made my grade a little different. But it's just the Cowboys beating the Cowboys, and they always shoot themselves in the foot, either on the field, off the field. This is why I call the Dallas Cowboys a bad luck in the making, because they keep finding a way to shoot themselves in the foot, and I'll be real critical on it.
So basically, what he's saying is they've had a lot of missed opportunities, pretty much. I mean, what would you say, real quick though, to those that they got Dak Prescott, they got Ezekiel Elliott, and they have 2 franchise players that are starting to pan out. I mean, do you still feel like they're just still not righting the ship?
Well, it would be easier to help them get some weapons and take less pressure off of Dak Prescott and maybe some off of Ezekiel Elliott. They rely too much on the run, and sometimes you're going to need the passing game to bail you out. You don't have true skilled receivers to do that. I mean, a 3rd round draft pick from Colorado State, he's a good receiver, but he doesn't get good separation. DJ Moore was the best overall receiver right in your lap, and you passed up on him, and Carolina picks him up, say, thank you, Merry Christmas. So this is what happens to the Dallas Cowboys. This is who they are, and this going to keeps on happening. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to win their conference. They're probably not going to be in the playoff hunt by the time the season's over. And we'll talk about that another time, another day, but this is why I give the Cowboys a grade for it.
Well, you heard it here first. Two, obviously, opposite grades.
You heard
for
from
the
Their
Dallas
top two picks are
Cowboys.
going to be in the league for 10 or more years apiece, though.
I know, but they need to address the offensive side first.
They drafted for longevity.
Well, it's about when now. Because you see them Dallas Cowboys fans walk down the stadium once they heard that call and that pick. They want a receiver, not an inside linebacker. Can you blame them? No. I would have did the same thing too.
Cowboy Nation, what do
You
you
heard
think?
from me.
Send us. Tell me what you think. I would love to see. We would all three love to see what you
Eagles
think. What you
fans
think
wanted
about
Ricky
this
Williams
debate.
over Donovan McNabb, too, so.
But you talk about the Cowboys.
I feel like this is the team
The
we
Eagles
can
have more
talk about.
success. This is the Cowboys and Jerry Jones we're talking about.
I feel like this we could actually spend a whole podcast just breaking down the Dallas Cowboys and their history basically. So, but we're actually gonna go from the Dallas Cowboys and we're gonna go up to the Empire State. We're gonna talk about the New York Giants. Mike, I'm gonna start with you this time. You gave them an A+ for their draft picks. Tell us why you gave them that high.
It's a no-brainer. They hit home runs where they need to be hit. I'm gonna start off with the first two, and Saquon Barkley. No-brainer. You can't pass up on him. He's a once-in-generation type back. In the other shows, I compare him to Marshall Faulk / LaDainian Tomlinson, and he's gonna be a hell of a player for years to come. And this takes a lot of pressure off Eli Manning, who I still feel has 3 to 5 years left of his playing career. And you also dress, if not one of the best offensive guards compared to Nelson, who was drafted by the Colts. I mean, Will Hernandez, this kid has the nastiness to him. He finished blocks, and when the whistle is blowing, he still goes after the whistle blows. And he is a nasty offensive line. You can kick him there to go along with Nate Solder, who you require from the Patriots. And I also like Lorenzo Carter out of Georgia, who's an outside linebacker and edge rusher. You can move him around. He is quick off his feet. He has that 1-2 quickness step. He could be Jason Pierre-Paul's replacement. I don't know. So, and you got the defensive tackle in Hill out of North Carolina State, which breeds defensive line. And you got a quarterback, Kyle Uleta, in the 4th round, who could be Eli Manning's replacement going forward once Eli Manning's career is done in the NFL. Then you got a defensive tackle, Miami. Overall, Giants nailed everything that they need to do in this draft. They are in a win-now mentality like the Cowboys draft picks, but better. So I gave them an A+ on that one.
I mean, not too far off. I mean, you gave them a B, so I mean, still a high grade for the New York
You
Giants.
could talk me into an A. I mean, I think this could be another one of those, 5 years down the road redraft. I think that we'll get an A actually. I think picking a running back, the general rule of thumb is you don't really want to take a running back with the top 20 pick. Now, they can get some special teams. They can get some special teams play out of Saquon Barkley. That justifies him being the 2nd overall pick like that. Will Hernandez, he should have been off the board plain and simple by then. They really lucked out getting there.
It was a Merry Christmas present.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he was a day 1 pick, hands down. And more on him when we get to another team in the draft here. Spoiler alert: Seattle messed up. No, you touched on everything else there. I mean, one thing I like about the Giants is that they no 6th or 7th round picks. So everyone that they got, generally speaking, if you're a 5th round pick or higher, like you're more than likely going to be on the 53-man roster. So the downside of that, there are going to be some growing pains in there because there's not a lot of middle ground with the Giants. You got this rookie class coming in and joining a team of old dudes. So it's going to be an interesting locker room, we'll see.
New York Giants, on both sides, giving them high grades. Definitely, I will never argue with the Saquon Barkley pick. I mean, because we already knew whoever got him was going to get a special talent and someone who was obviously going to be a Hall of Fame running back, hopefully. that does pan out. But I mean, a rare talent at the running back position. So,
well, speaking of Barkley, I think Cleveland did the right thing, skipping on him and getting Nick Chubb in the second round. They could have gotten Darius Geis in the second round if they wanted to. There were some other good running backs available in the second round. So Cleveland, I think, did do the right thing. Since they had 2 top 4, if they only had the 1 top 4 pick, or the 1 first round pick, I think maybe they do go ahead and snatch Barkley up like that. But with 2 top 4s, waiting to get I mean, the difference in at least in college between Barkley and Chubb is about this much. So I do applaud Cleveland waiting the second round on that.
So the New York Giants put in a lot of work in the NFL draft, trying to build off of hopefully coming back from a negative season. Of course, they lost their best wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr., for the season last year. So definitely interested to see how they bounce back in 2018. We're going to go to Philadelphia and discuss the Eagles. Luke, I want to start with you. You gave them a solid beat.
Oh, yeah, to defend the Super Bowl champs. I got a lot of that team coming back. Zach Ertz is still at the tight end position, so I'm kind of mildly surprising when Dallas Goedert out of South Dakota State there. Avonte Maddox, he was one of the better cornerbacks, at least in the ACC this past year. Josh Sweat, he's giving a little bit of depth on the defensive line, defensive end. Matt Pryor, he could be I think a quality back, but off the tackle, and they had the most interesting pick of the draft, the Australian guy, the Australian rugby player. What was he, 6'8", 345?
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Mailata, and some of them highlights. He might not be an offensive lineman. This kid can run with the ball. I mean, he's rumors he's never played football before. He's a rugby player. All 6'8", 345 of them. But this guy could stomp. And, he knew what he's doing toting that rock. It was, the competition all looked like us, but still impressive all the same.
Right.
I would have liked to have rather seen them, maybe with their. They didn't have a pick until number 49 overall in the draft there. And like I said, they got Zach Ertz at the tight end already. They're pretty set at quarterback, and they have the skill positions on offense. I would have liked to have seen him get Nathan Shepard out of Fort Hays State with that number 49 overall pick in the second round. But other than that, to defend the Super Bowl champs don't really have a whole lot of pressing needs or rookie thing to come in the arena and play right away anyway. So they just kind of held serve right there.
Mike, I'm gonna pass it to you. You actually gave this a slightly higher. You gave them a B+.
Well, the reason why I gave them a B+, because in the free agency, mostly they addressed their needs, especially on defense. They got a few skilled players offensively here and there. Then the steal of the draft was the Dallas Cowboys when they stole the tight end, Dallas Goedert out of South Dakota State, right in front of them, especially with David Akers was trolling them in their own stadium. That was the funny part, but I loved it. So I gave him a grade there. Also, you got Maddox, who is a pretty good solid corner, who can be a nickel at some point and get started at the backup part and as well the corner position. He also got Josh Sweat out of Florida State, who I really had high praise on. He could have been a day 1 pick, but he slipped, and he's a good defensive player. And they got 2 offensive tackles. Other than that, Philadelphia didn't really need too much because they dressed it, most of it in the free agency mark, so I gave them B+ for that.
Been the Super Bowl champions. Get high grades for the draft, so it looks like they're still trying to build off of not only this past successful season, but also moving forward into the future. So definitely kudos to the Philadelphia Eagles for their work in the NFL draft. We're going to march on to the Washington Redskins. Mike, I'm going to start with you on this one. Different grades in this one. You gave them a B+. Wow.
Well, because on defense, they needed to address that offensive line by getting Deron Payne, the second best defensive tackle, to Vita out of Washington, a guy from Alabama. So you paired him with another Alabama teammate that they drafted last year. And the draft they got was Darius Geis, who they had day 1 but failed due to some characteristic issues and off the field issues. So they got 2 day 1 starters there. And I also look at another pick, Troy Apadu for Penn State, who's a good overall safety. They also got another defensive tackle that could be the rotation 5th round 10 setter for Virginia Tech. They got another linebacker from Alabama overall. They hit the nail, in my opinion. The reason why I give them a higher grade is because their record last year, if they would have made to the playoffs barely or so, it would have been a higher grade. Other than that, I give them a B+ for it.
Luke, you gave them just a little lower grade. You actually gave them a C for their draft picks.
Yeah, long story short, I don't trust Daniel Snyder, the owner there. The Washington Redskins, since he's taken over, has been a house of horror. They made some really good picks here. Like, you can talk me into a B as well. On paper, they made some great picks. I don't like any one player going to the Redskins. It's football purgatory. So, I mean, they got some really good individuals on this team, though. I really like the pick of Deron Payne there, and with the first round pick as well. I got some sleepers in the later rounds, but again, this is more a reflection on the organization than the draft picks themselves.
And you do make a good point about Dan Snyder, and I can't really knock the players for that, for the organization problems and their mishaps, and they shot themselves from missing out on good quarterbacks here and there in the draft set for Robert Griffin III, but he got injured, and we all know how the rest goes forward. So I can't really knock the owners, not knock the owners, but knock on the players because of the situation they're going to. Let's see if they make the best out of it.
All right, good luck to the Washington Redskins. That's going to actually conclude the NFC East division and their draft picks for 2018. We're going to move on with the NFC North division, and we're going to start with the Detroit Lions. Mike, I'm going to start with you with this one. Similar grades between the both of you. Mike, you gave them one a little bit higher. You gave them a B+.
Well, they needed to address the offensive line spot, and they got a center who's a day one starter. He's got that nastiness to him. He finishes blocks. He also gets pancake blocks as well. What pancake block, those who don't know, is when you knock a defensive on his butt and you go and knock another defensive on his butt. That's called pancake blocks. Then they addressed the running back position, Kerryon Johnson, who I had a late first round grade on, early the second round. And you also had a safety that can help on the defensive side. And the steal of the draft to me is Deshaun Hand out of Alabama. A lot of people had him going day one, but he failed in day two. And Matt Patricia and the Lions worked out a deal with the Patriots where they could jump other teams and get in that player. So, and they got a tackle who could be a day one but fell, and they got a good run back out of San Diego State overall. Coach Patricia's first draft as a head coach with the Lions, I give him a B+ for that.
Luke, I'm going to sling it your direction. Similar grade, a solid B.
Yeah, I would have rather seen Kerryon Johnson, just for my own personal satisfaction, go to the Panthers. It'd be kind of cool to see him in the backfield with former Auburn Tiger Cam Newton, if he would kind of run that similar offense. I mean, I believe they had both played for the same head coach. They very, very similar offense set coming out of the university there. But no, he's a good pickup for him there. I think he'll really be able to prosper. You think about it, quickly, who's the last traditional running back the Detroit Lions have had?
None.
Exactly.
Besides Barry Sanders.
No, Barry Sanders is as non-traditional as they get. He's kind of that trendsetter with non-traditional running backs.
Right.
That's the whole point I'm trying to make. They got the kid Abdullah out of Nebraska right now. They momentarily have Reggie Bush. These are non-traditional running backs. You can tell me, you almost have to go all the way back to Billy Sims in the late 70s, early 80s to find the last traditional running back the Detroit Lions have had. So Kerryon Johnson fits that MO running back for them very, very well. I let them get the center of Arkansas with the first pick there. I actually think they should have gotten Will Hernandez, who fell to the second round of the Giants. I had Hernandez higher on my board, but it's still a solid pickup right there. And I agree with what Mike said about Deshaun Hand too. How he fell to the fourth round. A lot of talented players in this draft. That's the only way he could have fell that far.
B's for the Detroit Lions. We're going to go from Detroit and we're going to go to Chi-Town. We're going to talk about the Chicago Bears. Luke, I want to start with you on this one. You gave them a solid A.
Yeah, I like what the Bears did here. If I would have done anything different, they got Roquan Smith at the end pick overall in the draft. I believe Mike and I both had to take a Tremaine Edmonds out of Virginia Tech there. very little difference between the two there, though. But I know they got Raquan Smith out of Georgia with the number 8 pick there. James Daniels, the center out of Iowa. He was a day 1 talent, fell to the second round for him. He was an early second rounder though. And then this guy Anthony Miller out of Memphis. I had the privilege of watching Memphis at least on television a few times this year. He can. Thinking about Anthony Miller is he's one of the few. I can't believe how overlooked he was. He's one of the few receivers in the draft that can basically run routes as crisp as he can, but yet still be really effective after the catch of the ball as well. I think they got a really good steal out of him. I mean, Trubisky's got to find a way to hook up with him and fast. Look at some later round picks here. I mean, they got a defensive end of the Utah, Kylie Pitts there in the 6th round. But no, they great linebacker with the first pick. Got some offensive line help, and I really like the Anthony Miller pick. That's why I gave him an A.
Mike, you gave the Chicago Bears just slightly under an A. You gave them a B+.
Well, they hit the nail of getting Raquan Smith, the linebacker, out of Georgia, because they really need that middle linebacker to solidify, because they haven't had a dominant defender like that since Brian Urlacher in the Bears playing days, who was recently inducted to the Hall of Fame. And the center, who I do like in the 2nd round pick, could go with that offensive line. So that offensive line solidified. James Daniels, he's a nasty center. I mean, he might be undersized a little bit, but that don't mean nothing when he goes out and makes a vicious blocks. And also Anthony Miller out of Memphis, I can't believe he fell that far. He was a day 1 pick, but like he was saying, he was overlooked due to his height, but he's a good route runner, and he gets separation from the defender and make plays after the catch. I mean, this is my favorite receiver, one Chris route runners in the draft. And you also got another outside linebacker, Western Kentucky, Javon Wims, in my opinion, should have stayed at Georgia for his senior year. He could have had a higher draft stock, but he left early, was picked up in the 7th round, fighting for a roster spot. So we'll see how he does in that position. The reason why I gave him a B+, because the Bears haven't been to the playoffs in a long time, since they fired Lovie Smith, and they haven't been there since. But overall, Bears did pretty good in the draft, so they got to capitalize on it now and get some wins and hopefully get back to the playoff run.
Yeah, I'm looking at our grades here. This whole division did really good.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about the NFC North. Speaking of how well this division did in the NFL draft, just like Luke said, hopefully this is the start of something. Hopefully going back to those winning ways with the Chicago Bears. We'll find out in September. We're going to go from the Chicago Bears, and we're going to discuss the Green Bay Packers. Mike, I'll start with you with this one. You gave the Packers a B-.
Well, the reason why I give them a higher grade, I mean, they did address corner in the draft, but I would like to see them address the pass rusher, because we don't know how long Clay Matthews is going to play. He's still going to be that dominant player. And you also got that position was banged up with injury, so I like to see him draft a pass rusher so he can help Clay Matthews out in the crew out. And they really need secondary, because they was getting hurt last year, and also they was giving up too many plays, and they was injured. So they did address the corner spot with the first 2 picks in the draft, the 1st round and 2nd round, who were 1st round talent, especially Josh Jackson out of Iowa, who I really had a high grade, and who I really put in my mock draft to go to the Packers. But it didn't, or it wasn't him, but I don't know, but it didn't happen, but he fell to on their lap. I would like to see him address the pass rusher in the draft, which they didn't really, but other than that, I gave him a B-. They did pretty good, but I would like to see him address that pass rusher need.
All right, Luke, we're going to kick it to you. You gave them a solid A.
Yeah, you look at their first pick, Jair Alexander. He wasn't the best defensive back, in the draft. He was the best one, on the board with that 1st round, selection. And they actually traded up with Seattle to get that pick from him. Same with Josh Jackson, not a 1st round talent like Mike said. And while he wasn't, the best defensive back in the draft, he was still the best one available at that time. I actually want to skim on down here, to the 6th round. Actually, we go to the, stop here to the end of the 5th round. They got the best punter in the draft, in my opinion, J.K. Scott out of Alabama. And, special teams is, in fact, 1/3 of the game. So, but I like this first round pick. Equinemius St. Brown, a wide receiver out of Notre Dame. Notre Dame, the last couple of years he was there, they kind of weren't. Like when they had Malik Zaire quarterbacking them, they didn't throw the ball a whole lot. But then they had DeJon Kaiser in there. He really blossomed at Kaiser. Kaiser goes pro early, drafted by the Browns. Kind of got back to the running ways last year Notre Dame did. But no, I mean for him to fall to the 6th round, I mean you kind of have to look at the package as a whole. They're having Aaron Rodgers come back healthy. You get in a roundabout kind of way, quantify Jimmy Graham as a draft pick for him as well. I mean, so if you take all that into consideration, I give him an A.
Green Bay Packers, Cheesehead Nation, continue to build off of some solid draft picks. They actually had quite a few picks in 2018. We'll see how they pan out. High grade, so hopefully they'll use those to turn around some more wins for Aaron Rodgers and company. Lastly, we're going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Both of you guys gave them pretty high remarks. Luke, I'm going to start with you. You gave them a solid A.
Yeah, I liked it because they were, in the regular season, they were the league's best defense. And what do? They draft a defensive player. Mike Hughes, a cornerback out of Central Florida. They got Kirk Cousins through free agency there. They're really solid at the skill positions already. So what do? They go for an offensive tackle. Brian O'Neill out of Pittsburgh in the 2nd round there. Then they keep it defense. Jalen Holmes out of Ohio State, defensive end. I just think a team that knows that. I like how the #1 defense in the league a year ago stayed going, defensive picks, offensive line, so on and so forth. Like they're not trying to become a team that they are not. They know what they have, and they're just trying to get better at what they have. They made the NFC Championship game last year. If they make the NFC Championship game or further this year, they know what they have to do to get there. They're going to follow that blueprint. They're going to make we're going to make our strengths stronger, and that's exactly what they did.
All right, very well said on that regards. Mike, not too far. You actually gave them just slightly higher grade. You gave them an A+.
Well, I gave them an A+, and I thought they got, in my opinion, the best corner in the draft, which is Mike Hughes. He fell off because of some issues he had, but he redeemed himself and went to Central Florida and got himself in order together. And he also can return kicks as well and punts, so that'd be good for the Vikings special teams. And they went with the offensive line and O'Neal out of Pittsburgh. And Jalen Holmes, Ohio State defensive end. This kid had a 1st-round grade, but he fell in their lap to the 4th round. And they also dressed in another defensive end who I really like out of Tulane. He was just balling. And they got him in the 6th round. He could be a starter or be in the rotation part. And they dressed in most of their needs in free agency with the quarterback. In this draft, they went mostly defense because they got gashed in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles last year. They're not wanting to go through that stage again, so they make the defense get better, and they want to make it vicious and nasty and be the #1 league defense again. So that's my take on it.
So basically, to sum it up, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But you do build off of your strengths, like you both mentioned. So the Minnesota Vikings looking like they're trying to continue off of last season's success. So we'll see how that pans out in 2018. That's going to conclude the NFC North Division. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NFC South, featuring the Atlanta Falcons, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Stay with us. It's going down only here. Gameball NFL Endzone. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to Gameball NFL Endzone, where the football season never ends. Once again, I'm Marcus Genius Jenkins.
I'm Michael O'Reilly.
And I'm Luke Harnett. We're at Stonewall Pizzeria, 1008 Mass Street in Lawrence.
Yes, sir. We're going to move to the NFC South Division, and we're going to start with the Atlanta Falcons. Mike, I want to kick this off with you first. Both of you guys gave them high grades with their NFL draft picks. You gave them an A-. What made you give them such a high grade?
Well, I thought they was going to draft a defensive line. That's where their most need was, in that interior spot. especially after the Super Bowl with the Patriots. They ain't had enough depth at that spot to keep putting that pressure on the Patriots offense and Tom Brady. And last season was kind of down year on defense. They was giving up a lot of runs and passes as well. I mean, they still got there, but it wasn't that vicious defense that we're kind of accustomed to seeing. So I would have gave him an A+, but I went slightly under, gave him an A-. I mean, Calvin Ridley, the best receiver in the draft, to go along with another Alabama Chris Adai and Julio Jones, that 1-2 combination there, that is deadly. That takes the pressure off of Julio Jones, because if you double team him, you got another good receiver who can separate and who's excellent with his route running. He also has good hands. The knock on him was he was too skinny, but still, you're going to get a good, excellent receiver. He's going to be in the right one with Julio Jones and get bulked up, and he's going to play good. And also, they got a still in the second round, Isaiah Oliver, who has highly rated in the first round, fell to the second round cornerback out of Colorado. This dude can play man-to-man press coverage, and that's where Dan Quinn loves to play his defenses, man press coverage, and let the defensive line do his thing, drop 7 or 8 in the back. And you also got South Florida defensive tackle and Snett. He's a good, vicious player, and you got a good running back to go along the backfield. You also got a good receiver and a safety out of Yale. Other than that, the Atlanta Falcons hit a home run with his draft. Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, that is a dangerous combination. There should be no excuse for the second-year offensive coordinator, Sarkisian, to mess this one up. Because last year, it was his first year as an NFL offensive coordinator. This year, he's got to step this game up. If they don't score much production, I expect him to be fired. But overall, this is a good draft by the Atlanta Falcons. They get an A- from me.
Luke, a little slightly under. Still a high grade. You gave them a B. What made you give them a B?
Well, they did get my number 1 receiver in the draft, down at the number 26 pick. Kind of surprised to see Ridley fall that far. I was thinking Baltimore was going to scoop him up there, earlier in the round. Or Dallas, for that matter, yeah. But, no, Calvin Ridley, his top to bottom game fits that of the Ravens. So that would have been a nice home for him there. I gave him a B because, they did really go in the top 2 picks there. But then you move down to Deidre Sonata, and defensive tackle out of South Florida on down. These guys are going to become some hit or miss guys. So it's going to be those 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th picks that they made that could fluctuate from a B to a C or a B to an A or a B to a B, I guess, for lack of a better term. Remember when Michael Vick was there and they kept on wondering why they couldn't get his best receiver was Brian Finneran? Man, how times have changed now. Ridley and Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman coming out of the backfield, Matty Ice pulling the trigger. They'll score 30 or more every game, at least every home game. If I had to guess, they'll score 30 or more at least every home game.
It depends on how the offensive coordinator calls the plays. If he can call the plays better, then you have that high percentage of 30 points or more. If he doesn't, it's a failure for that Falcons offense.
All right. High grades for the Dirty Birds from Mike and Luke. We'll see how those pan out. Maybe a little bit more fire on offense, like we were just discussing. We'll see what happens in the ATL. We're going to move from Atlanta. We're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers. We're going to start with you on this one. You gave them a solid B.
A real solid B there. Probably would have given him an A if they took Calvin Ridley ahead of DJ Moore there. I know Mike's pretty high on DJ Moore, and rightfully so. We actually let up the show, with the Cowboys, and I actually think Dallas did the right thing not taking DJ Moore because there were better receivers in the draft, at least for the Dallas Cowboys scheme. His game doesn't really translate to what the Cowboys want to run, through the throwing game there. But Dante Jackson, a solid quarterback at LSU in the second round. They did really good on getting him there. I like Rashawn Golden out of Tennessee. Great cornerback in the SEC conference there. We got some day 3 guys. Got Ian Thomas at tight end out of Indiana. He could be a bit of a sleeper pick for him. Carolina, they had a really good draft last year. Taking Christian McCaffrey. Greg Olson's back at the tight end position for him. Still solid on the defensive side of the ball. They haven't made the playoffs, the last 2 years in a row. That's one thing. There's 2 things that the division is notorious for. They rarely ever have the same team win the division 2 years in a row, and they rarely ever have teams make the playoffs 2 years in a row. So it's also notorious for teams going from worst to first. That's changed the last 3 to 4 years, the worst to first advantage. But no, Carolina's got a good. I mean, I got to give them a B. There's nothing like there.
And to write off that NFC division, it seems like it's a pattern. The last team of the NFC South always finished first that following year. So it's kind of a repeated pattern. So we don't know who's going to finish first. Could be Tampa Bay. I don't know. So we'll find out. But I gave them an A because they needed a receiver to address in the draft because Cam Newton didn't have no targets outside of Greg Olsen and that offense to take pressure off him. So you finally get a receiver that can take pressure off of Greg Olsen and Cam Newton in the draft.
Would you take him over Ridley though?
That's a toss-up question. It just depends on how. We'll just have a competition between those two for me to go. I would take both in the first round over each other if it mattered, but they got to steal where Dallas fell off at. I kind of disagree with his point by a system fit. DJ Moore is a physical receiver. When his ball is his hand after he catches, he's a running back willing to hit people and stiff arm. So I think the Carolina Panthers hit a home run. They got a steal and fell on their lap, which the Cowboys didn't do. Again, DJ Moore, he also dresses the corner need. That's what they need help at. And I'm really looking at this tight end, Ian Thomas, out of Indiana. A lot of people had him a first-round grade if he didn't get hurt. So when he got hurt, that kind of messed his draft start. Other than that, they addressed other needs for positional reasons, for depth or special teams. Other than that, the Carolina Panthers hit a home run. They get an A from me.
Carolina Panthers high grades for the 2018 draft picks. We're going to move on to the New Orleans Saints. Mike, I'm going to start with you with this one. You gave them a B+.
I would have gave them a higher grade if they would have addressed the tight end spot and they let Kobe Fleener go, who was a bust in that offense. But they did address a pass rusher named Marcus Davenport, which they surrendered next year's 2019 draft pick to trade up and get him. He is raw and he has good technique, but just needs a little more work to it. You got him going on with that defensive line spot, and you got another receiver out of UCF. And you got an offensive tackle to address out of Florida State. And that corner, Kareem Moore out of Boston College, I think he's underrated and he fell far wide. I don't know. Other than that, to go along with the defensive side of the part, they wanted to address that defense. Is their win now mentality to go along with the other picks that they have. But other than that, I give them a solid B+ for it.
Luke, you gave them kind of a in-between grade. You gave them a C.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure they had to trade up to get Marcus Davenport. I think they could have gotten him, without trading up, or at least getting a player very similar to him without trading up as well. So, I mean, Marcus Davenport, he's a fine pickup. I'm just not sure that I agree with what they had to give up to go get him.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is probably in the the last 2 years of his he signed that 2-year extension. That's probably all the more time he has left there. And the number 14 pick, I know they're a loaded offense already, but they still had house money for an array of different receivers to pick from there. Mike mentioned the tight end spot; they really didn't address that too terribly well there. Lost a bidding war to Jimmy Grant to the Packers. So Traquan Smith, the receiver out of Central Florida, he's got to be delighted about that because Drew Brees, he's going to make anyone shine. He made Marquez Colston shine. He's 7-8 picks from Mr. Irrelevant. So. Mike mentioned the picks on there. Rick Leonard off the tech out of Florida State could be in. He's an 8 to 12 year guy waiting to happen. And then Trump Jamerson, a safety out of Wisconsin. I'm going to keep an eye on him. He's going to be. He's got John Lynch potential now.
All right, Mike, we're going to pass this one on to you. Actually, I apologize about that. Going from the New Orleans Saints, we're going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. High grades from the both of you on this one. Luke, we'll start with you on this one. Solid day.
They got the best defensive tackle in the draft, Vita Vea out of Washington, at the number 12 overall pick. The Miami Dolphins were sitting there at number 11, just lost to Ndamukong Suh. I think Miami should have got Vita Vea at pick before that. So Tampa Bay really lucked out on that one there. Ronald Jones too, a running back out of USC. They lost, I believe, Doug Martin's back in Oakland with John Gruden and the company now.
They released
so that's a good pickup right there too. He wasn't as heralded a running back as Geis, as Barkley, as Chubb and Michelle out of Georgia, but he's every bit as prime as them. MJ Stewart, the cornerback out of North Carolina, can give us some depth there. The B2B pick just puts it over. I probably would have given any team in the league that drafted B2B and A. This is the big B2B house.
All right, Mike, kicking off to you. This is like a little bit higher. You gave them an A+. Why'd you give them an A+?
Well, they dressed the defensive need and that defensive line spot, and that's where their weakness was last year because they was getting double teamed, and Jerry McCoy had to do most of the work a little bit. They wasn't really there once they acquired Jason Pierre-Paul. Now you address Vita, the best defensive tackle in the draft. That takes pressure off of Jerry McCoy on the double teams. So Villa is a true defensive tackle. He is a space eater. This kid is so raw and so ruthless. Get to the quarterback and stop the run is unbelievable. Watch his highlights with his technique. He throws people like it ain't nothing. He threw 2 players around and still got a quarterback sack with even double team. And on the special team, he was like kind of a gunner. He chased after the punt return and tackled him. A 347-pound defensive tackle with that type of speed chases a player on special teams to make a tackle. I mean, that sets it all. I am sold on that. And you also got Ronald Jones II out of USC. He's a little bit underrated running back for me, but he'll fit in that offensive scheme. They got 2 first-round cornerbacks in the second round. MJ Stewart, who kind of reminds me of Malcolm Butler with his feisty and his nastiness. He can get up in your face. He also can make plays in the passing game. And he also a well tackler in space. Then you got Carlton Davis out of Auburn. Another first round talent going to the second round for your team. This means it's more depth or it could be day one starters. But so far, the first round pick a few years ago, Hargroves out of Florida is not panning out too well a little bit. But overall, they hit the money, and they get an A+ for me.
Things looking up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Great draft picks all the way around. Multiple brothers here gave them an A. See what happens in 2018 for the Buccaneers. We're going to go from the NFC South, and we're going to go to the NFC West Division. We're going to start things off with the Arizona Cardinals. Mike, we're going to start with you. You gave them a B.
Well, they did address quarterback need. Because we don't know if Sam Bradford can stay healthy. He's injury prone. He only stayed healthy once or twice in his NFL career, full 16 games. So they did address a quarterback need there. He also addressed a good receiver in Christian Kirk out of Texas A&M. This is a rookie stream to team along with veteran wide receiver and Larry Fitzgerald. Oh man, that's have to be exciting for him. And you also got a running back out of Foreman and Chase Edmonds. Then you also got a center out of Michigan, and they dressed a cornerback out of Penn State and an offensive tackle out of Cincinnati. I would have gave him a little higher grade, but the first 2 picks they did address the need overall. That get a solid B.
Luke gave them a little bit of higher grade. You gave them an A.
Yeah, give them an A because if you look at the draft through the lens of free agency, they got players coming back, injury, whatever else. They got Sam Bradford through injury. I assume they got Sam Bradford through trade. They got David Johnson, coming back from injury. So you take them 2 factors into account there. Larry Fitzgerald's coming back for another year. So if you add that to the overall landscape of the draft, I've been saying since our mock draft that Josh Rosen's the most NFL-ready quarterback this year in the draft. He can play week 1 for him, I think. I'm not saying he will. I think that's it's going to be Sam Bradford's job to lose. But I mean, Josh Rosen can play week 1 for any team. Christian Kirk, he not the best receiver in the draft. He is the best possession receiver though. Apparently, his childhood goes back. He goes back to with Kurt Warner, which is both big for life and for football. So really impressed with the pick right there for him. Mason Cole out of Michigan. So they got a bit of a reputation of putting good offensive linemen in the league there. And if you look at the broad spectrum. Players coming back from injury, free agency. most NFL ready quarterback, best possession receiver in the draft, solid, he's, Mason Cole out of Michigan, let's say the center. He can play all positions though, really, for him. I give him an A.
All right, Arizona Cardinals loading up with their draft picks. They had 7 altogether. We'll see how they'll be utilized in the upcoming season. We're going to go from the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to move on to San Francisco and discuss the 49ers. Luke, I want to start with you. Not necessarily a good grade for you. Why did you give them a C?
I don't know what the Rams are doing. And that's not necessarily a knock on them either. They could be light years ahead of all of us. But they did so much in free agency, they didn't draft until the 3rd round. Got Joe Noteboom, off the tackle out of TCU there. Picked up a center from Michigan State, Brian Allen, in the 4th round. Got him a defensive end out of Stephen Foster in the 4th round as well. But the Rams are playing a different game than any other team in the league is this offseason. I think that's undisputed right there. It's hard to give them any team anything higher than a C when they don't have a 1st or 2nd round pick. So again, I kind of to borrow from what I was talking about with the Cardinals there, you kind of have to look at what do they do through free agency, who do they have coming back. It's a very hodgepodge of a locker room right now, and it's either going to be boom or bust for them.
All right, and just a correction, everybody out there, we're going to discuss the Los Angeles Rams. Mike, you gave them just a slightly higher grade. You gave them a B. They actually had quite a few draft picks, like you mentioned, didn't necessarily get a pick to the 3rd round.
They addressed the offensive tackle need for depth, or it could be a potential starter. And I'm a big fan of the 4th round pick, John Franklin Myers out of Stephen Austin. This kid is raw, but he can play. He's potentially could be a day 1 starter to me if you work with him on his technique. Also, they addressed the linebacker in the 5th round, Virginia, who I'm very high on. Watch his tape against Miami. He was everywhere. And I'm going to jump into their last pick of the draft, the 7th round, Justin Lawyer out of SMU defensive end. He may not have quickness, but he has a motor, and he continues to make plays. He keeps on going. He does not quit. He gets off double teams and makes tackles for a loss, or gets pressure out the quarterback. So overall, I gave him the B-. I'm really not high on some of these players, just 2 or 3, but it could be potential starters, but we'll have to see if they can prove me wrong.
Now, I do want to ask you this. Now, in regards to the Rams, you gave them a B-, you gave them a C. Do you think they necessarily were addressing needs, or maybe kind of stocking up on a future with this one? Because we know how loaded they were going into the free agency.
My opinion is stocking up for the future a little bit, because all the players that they signed or traded for has 1-year contracts, or some of them have 1 year left for their contracts. So this is like set up for the future, in my opinion. That's why I look at it.
John Kelly, a 6th round running back, 6th round selection, running back out of Tennessee, allegedly has Alvin Kamara potential. So that could be I think him and Todd Gurley could be a secret 1-2 punch that nobody knows about yet.
Los Angeles Rams, overall, a great offseason for them, and it seems like they're only going to continue to get better as they stocked up quite a bit with this NFL draft. We're going to stay in the state of California, and we are going to discuss the San Francisco 49ers. Luke, I'm going to start with you again. Not so happy with the state of California. It seems like you gave the 49ers a C as well as the Rams.
I like the top 2 picks there, actually. Mike McGlinchey, he was the best offensive tackle in the draft, available at the number 9 pick. He was the best available at the time of the selection, And Dante Pettis, I don't know what kind of receiver pick he's going to be. I think he did, I believe, set or tie a NCAA record for punt returns.
Yes, he did.
So, he's going to be great in the special teams, but do you want to be, spending a 2nd round pick on him, on a guy that's primarily special teams? I would like to see him got more skill, but, with Jimmy Garoppolo in there, the guy went 5-0 starting for him last year. I understand the pick, to get us some protection in the 1st round there. But I would like to see him do a little bit better with the with the skill positions as well. And you just look top to bottom here. Again, they got Pettis, made for special teams in the 2nd round. Then you're looking at inside linebacker, safety, defensive. They were weak on the defensive ball, side of the ball, to be fair for them. So They did get my man DJ Reader to Kansas State, so I'm not going to knock it for that. So, but no, they. I mean, grading the draft is so tricky. I mean, 3-4 years from now, maybe I nailed it, maybe I got egg on my face. So only time will tell.
All right, a little bit higher grade for you, Mike. You gave them an A minus. What gave you the initiative, to give them a high grade?
Well, they did address the offensive tackle need in Mike McGlinchey. He's very versatile. He can play left side, he can play right side, but he's going to be on the right side because Joe Stanley's still playing on the left side, and Dante Pettis out of Washington State. He's there for special team purposes. Also, he could be a starter in the lineup or add more depth at that receiver spot. Then Fred Warner out of BYU, the inside linebacker. I'm very high on him. He blew me away at the combine with his catching skills and the defending the pass. Also, he's a good, very run supporter, and he can get pressure on the quarterback. He could be a day one starter due to allegations on Foster, their first round pick last year, due to some salt charges ongoing. We don't know. He could be a side of him, or he could be the starter taking over him. And I'm also high on Street, the defensive end out of North Carolina State, like I was alluding to earlier. They are starting to bring back that breed of defensive line spot out of North Carolina State. And you got a safety and defensive tackle. Other than that, I give them an A because they address needs and they're trying to get better and be back to that competitiveness and try to get to the playoffs. But other than that, I give them an A.
All right. That concludes the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this one's going to be interesting to talk about, and that is in regards to the Seattle Seahawks. Both of you gave them very low grades. We're going to start with you. You gave them a D.
Will Hernandez was first of all, they had the number 18 pick. They traded down to number 27. Really, I didn't entirely understand that. Will Hernandez at UTEP was still available at the punt time there. He winds up falling to the Giants in round 2. And something tells me that even if Seattle did draft an offensive tackle or an offensive lineman, it wouldn't have been him. I want to go back a few. Last time Seattle took an offensive lineman in the first round was Jermaine Feedy, and that guy can't get out of his own way. I like to point this out because at the time, K-State's Cody Whitehair was still on the board. He wound up going to the Bears in the second round, and he's just been he's been a dream for them. He can play multiple positions. Gets it. He's not as penalty prone as he is. So Rashad Penny, he's a solid running back. I was thinking that he would have been a second rounder though. I would like to see the team like Philadelphia pick him up in the second round or whatever else. You could talk me into a C, and here's why. They did get a third round pick from the Texans in the Dwayne Brown trade last year, and they turned that third round pick into Rasheem Green, a defensive end out of USC, and he was one of the better defensive linemen in this year's draft, and for him to fall to the number 3 spot there, and to get Dwayne Brown, on the offensive line at the same time, a Pro Bowler, you can tie me into a C there as well. I think the story of the draft was Shaquille Griffin, going to Seattle, playing with his twin brother Shaquille Griffin, who they drafted last year.
You did call that out.
And I stand by what I say. I think Shaquille Griffin had a better rookie season than Richard Sherman did. So there's a lot of potential there. I would like to see them go Will Hernandez with that number 1 pick, though. They could have gotten Rashad Penny or a running back similar to him, the next pick after that.
Boy, we're going to talk about this as well. You gave them a D minus. I mean, they were basically a step away from, if you were a teacher, failing them. So explain to me, why they got such a low grade.
Well, at least they got a higher grade. They wasn't a failure as the Dallas Cowboys, as I was alluding to earlier. At least they're way smarter than the Dallas Cowboys. But I gave them a D minus because they did not address the offensive needs. They need offensive line help so bad. Russell Wilson was going to turn himself into the nut house for suicide for running through his life in that offensive line who was deployed at injuries and couldn't block if their life was dependent on. I mean, they was coming through A gaps, B gaps, sack here, quarterback hurry here, stop and run for loss, tackle for loss here and there. So this is the most important need that they needed to address, and they didn't do it. I'm not knocking on Rashad out of San Diego State, the running back. He could have fell to the second round as he was alluding to, or they could have traded back into the second round and get Will Jimenez, who was still there, but they didn't do it. And they addressed a defensive end spot who they released Cliff Averill a couple of days ago. Then Shaquem Griffin won a wonderful story, and he's going to be a hell of a player against all odds, hashtag it. He's going to prove a lot of people wrong, so I'm a big fan of him and he can play. But other than that, they did not address the offensive line needs. That was the one important thing that Seattle had to address, was the offensive line spot, especially at that guard. It's going to be the same repeat season if they don't get that fixed. So they trust their instincts, but offensive line was there needed, and they did not fill that void. So I had to knock them on that, give them a D-.
They did get DJ Fluker in free agency, though, and I think what they're doing, they got a new offensive line coach. Mike Solari's in, Tom Cable is out. I think they're counting on continuity and experience as opposed to bringing a rookie in there, so only time will tell.
I hear what you're saying, but I'd rather go with longevity than now. And Will Jimenez is one of a kind offensive guard besides Quentin Nelson, who was drafted by the coach. I mean, he was the second best offensive guard. I'm like, he's there in your hand, or you could have traded back in and get him to go along with Rashad Penny.
Well, they have some decent pieces, though. They got Dwayne Brown who can put up one tackle. George Font's going to be coming back from injury, being the other tackle. Ethan Postage can play in either guard position. Justin Britt's a Pro Bowl center. So, I mean, they have some good pieces to work with there. They just can't collectively come together as a unit for whatever reason.
I understand with you on some points, but Russell Wilson can't just keep making plays on his own. I mean, somebody's going to have to step up. I mean, that offensive line's going to have to step up. I mean, I feel like they didn't address that. Will Jimenez was there. You had a feisty, violent offensive guard who just pancakes people and finish plays. I want that type of guy in my offensive unit.
Yeah, the thing that bothers me with the Rashad Penny pick as well is that, you know, he rarely ever got hit in the backfield at San Diego State. And, you know, we've been, you know, spending the last half hour talking about the offensive line of the Seahawks. He's going to be getting hit in the backfield, you know, more often than not, in all likeliness. So it's going to be interesting to see how that, you know, translates to the next level for him.
No grades for the draft picks of the Seattle Rams. I mean, can I get some extra credit or something? I mean, is there anything that they can do at this point to
they can
shit?
get some extra credit and make it to at least a C if they can get the offensive line figured out. Other than that, it's still going to stay in D- for me.
I give him a C because, like I said earlier, Dwayne Brown they got the third round pick and turned into Rasheem Green. They got Dwayne Brown at the same time. So if you have a draft, you know, with Rasheem Green and Dwayne Brown, it was a proven Pro Bowler on the offensive line already. I can bump it up to a C for him. You talked me into it.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's still plenty of time. I mean, we're only in the month of May, so I mean, there's still a lot of things that they can still do between here and going into training camp and so forth. So we'll see.
I tell it like this: I'd rather give a team a D and be wrong than give a team an A and be wrong.
No argument there at all. I would have to
agree.
Absolutely.
Or an F minus.
I'm still sticking by my
I'm
gun.
not saying I don't think there's
You're not going to change my mind about that F minus. It's going to stick there. I'm sticking to my gun. Says that's my scoop on that point.
What he's saying is there's just not an amount. There's not enough of extra credit for him to change that F minus. It is what it is.
Yep.
Well, let's say Leighton Vander Esch of you know, out of Boise State, there's Defensive Rookie of the Year though, or at least NFC Defensive Rookie of the Year.
And that still ain't going to change my point.
Last, I want to ask you guys this question because definitely compared to the last podcast, you definitely had a lot higher grades for the teams in the NFC. Do you think that they did a better job than the AFC overall?
I think they did dress the need wise because they know they are in a win now mentality and they have new coaches coming in and want to adapt type of new culture, and they're going after position needs to compare to where the value is there, and they're not overshooting themselves at one point. So I feel like I'm an AFC guy, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the NFC dominated the draft more than the AFC because they are getting players that can start from day one and they can fit their offense or defensive scheme and they can plug them in and get them going.
I mean, it's chess versus checkers here. I mean, the NFC does like compete with Belichick. So you got the AFC teams who are all trying to, you know, it's like you're at the Greyhound track. They're trying to catch that rabbit. Where the NFC, they just want, you know, they're just trying to, you know, king me.
All right,
exactly.
And then
it seems like every year it's the is Bill Belichick versus the NFC. Just put it that way. The Super Bowl Belichick versus the NFC team. Because you had different NFC teams that really don't knock off Belichick except for two. That was the Eagles and the Giants. And they're both in the NFC East Division.
Absolutely. One last question I want to ask you guys. Is there a team that just based off of this draft alone may have been the most improved of the conference?
Of this conference, my most improved are the New York Giants, the Minnesota Vikings, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and and the Chicago Bears. Those are my top four.
All right.
I don't know if I think if the Giants can stay healthy, I think they could be like that. I mean, not a lot of people saw the Eagles coming last year either, in the same division there as well. Cowboys and Redskins, I'm not sure. I mean, I think the Eagles and Giants could turn into a two-horse race, around Thanksgiving.
All right, and that's going to conclude our 2018 NFL Draft NFC edition right here only on Gameball NFL Endzone.
Social media, Facebook, you can follow us on Gameball College Kickoff / Gameball NFL Endzone. Email us, send us a fan letter, wherever at gck.gnfle@gmail.com. Twitter, you can follow your boy at all capitalized Gameball _M Mike. And you can also follow us on our official Twitter page at GCK_GNFLE. Same thing with Instagram. And you can get you a gear, copy your outfit, whatever, t-shirt to go along with the support at tokendesigns.topeka.com/Gameball. The website again is Topeka Designs Token. That's tokendesigns.topeka.com/Gameball. And subscribe, share, help our YouTube channel grow. GCK.GNFLE-TV. Your social media?
Of course, you can find me on Facebook under Marcus Jovel ENT Jenkins. Find me also on Instagram and Twitter at Jovel ENT.
I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Luke Hartnett. I'm on Twitter at Luke Hartnett 2.
Two folks.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of Gameball NFL Endzone. Thank you everybody for supporting and tuning in. Until next time, we're gone.
Peace and love, everybody.